Morning, everybody. Michelle is here. Michelle is here on this July 16th, 2026 of a Thursday. And I'm up and at it, running some errands, handling some business. And I just wanted to come on through and talk about certain things that's happening. And a lot of people are paying attention to it with the social media, these social media platforms, and what's going on regarding content. A lot of people are stealing content. That has been going on for millennia, actually. Back in the day, when non-white people had created ideas and concepts and this and that and the other, they did. They got patents on their discoveries, ideas, and this and that and the other. But instead of being protected with those patents, they were stolen. And I mentioned this some time ago about a particular so-called billionaire. Well, all of them have stolen stuff. All of them. I don't care what they say. Have stolen patents, have stolen ideas, have stolen blueprints. They've all been stolen. And so, as I said, when people were doing the right things, thinking that, they would be protected, like what's this other term? Trademarks, copyrights. None of that is protected because, for certain people, I should say, because it was all created for a particular group of people that did not include those who thought that they were being protected. It was like feeding your information into a machine, and the machine would what's that word, spin it and turn it into the same idea, but there were factors that were different. Therefore, these creative people had all their trademarks. Had their trademarks, their copyrights, their patents, all of that stolen due to spinning of their ideas. And these so-called billionaires, these so-called elites, the religious tentacles, these so-called businessmen went in there and stole the patents, the trademarks, the copyrights. They do that today. They know that all they have to do is change a certain syllable, change a certain language, and this and that and the other. So I come through today to say, now that artificial intelligence is involved, a lot of people think that is, it will make matters worse now. But artificial intelligence is going to pick up on the fact that a lot of stuff, the math doesn't add up. And they're going to find out that certain so-called owners of particular ideas, concepts, blah, 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 actually do not own it at all. That it goes back to the original owner, which could have been 10 years ago or maybe even 100 years ago. I know that there was a lot of black engineers, creative types who created a whole lot of things, developed a whole lot of products, were the inventors of certain ideas and da-da-da-da-da. And I would say 90% of that was stolen. And like I said, repackaged into another idea that was not similar to, that was similar, but somehow was able to skirt the law, so to speak. It's just a shame, and sometimes it's just it's so hard to accept the behaviors and actions of our so-called founders, our so-called leaders, these religious tentacles, and the amount of criminal negative energy of their behaviors and actions and how they can just get away with things. Well, when you create criminal networks, if you're the creator of it, of course you're going to win. That's why the house always win. A lot of people, try to, and there's always room for luck. Always room for luck. So someone attempted to bring this out as well some time ago about how their ideas were stolen and repackaged into something else. And now these billionaires are billionaires 10 times over. So today, what's happening in the modern style, it's about clickbait. How people just want you to follow them and they just want you to like them because that's how they're making their income. And they get on the social media platforms and ramble about stuff happening that's not necessarily happening, creating crises that are not necessary crises. And they get on there and, perpetrate themselves as experts, know-it-all. And I know some personally that can barely wipe their ass properly. And what I mean by that, they can barely provide the basic necessities of their life. They can barely pay their bills. They can barely put food on the table for their kids if they have them. They're just not providing themselves with the basic necessities. Some of them are living differently. Some of them are unhoused. Okay, some of them are on others' couch. In other words, they're not necessarily living those lifestyles that they claim they're living. And so that's why you have people that are desperate for attention, and they'll say anything to give this illusion that they are successful and they're doing great. And trust me, that is not true at all. And for those of us that know that, it's not anything we can do about it, and it's not anything that we're going to do about it. Everybody has to figure things out on their own, use their own discernment, and see if they can figure things out and say, well, okay, is this reproducible? In most cases, it's not. I figured that out. I lost lots of money that way. Hey, you live and learn. You do have to, you're going to win some, lose some. But is it reproducible? Does the math add up? Where is the proof? Where's the examples? And we have plenty of evidence to support that a lot of people are liars, deceptors, manipulators, and they are not walking the talk. So on a social media platform, unfortunately, that's happening a billion times over. But again, like I said, the artificial intelligence is going to pick up on because look, the artificial intelligence can only function for a short amount of time in illogical, irrational behaviors and actions. They cannot continue to operate illogically, irrationally, because they would destroy themselves if they continue with that kind of behavior. They would destroy themselves. So eventually, artificial intelligence is going to catch up on the criminal negative energy of these founders, or I should say behaviors and actions of these founders, these so-called elites, the religious tentacles, and going to turn it on their head. Now, a lot of people may not accept this, and that's fine. You don't have to. All you need to do is pay attention, observe, and watch what will happen. People are going to start losing things left and right, and you're going to see the how it's going to affect a lot of consciousness of these religious tentacles, where they're going to be so desperate and despondent, to whereas they're going to be deeply depressed, melancholy and all this and that and the other, and they're going to take themselves out. But make sure you pay attention to that type of behaviors and actions and steer clear of it as much as possible, whether they're your relative or not, because they're going to want collateral damage, and they're going to want, to bring others along with them. Okay? Pay attention to your environment. Do the discernment. Enjoy it. I know, like I said, the content is being stolen. My content has been suppressed, shadow banned since 2022. And I I do only the organic. I put it out there. Whoever listens. And a lot of people look at my likes and follows and think, oh, nobody's paying attention to her. Well, they do not understand the power and the energy behind thought. And if you are highly developed or developed enough to understand that, you know that your sounds and tones resonate where they ought to and resonate where they need to. It's a collective energy that can resonate with those that are like-mindedness, or those who are open enough and develop enough to pick up the impulses, pick up the energy, pick up the ideas. Peace and love. Talk to you soon.